A few weeks ago, I was at a really big crossroads. I think we all are at this point with what's going on in the world. There's just so many questions and so many things that I've been wondering about. So in the middle of a sort of existential crisis I was having, I decided to reread a book that I'd read a long time ago by Clayton M. Christensen called How Will You Measure Your Life? I enjoyed the book the first time, but I don't think I really grasped how important the concepts were. And my brother recommended it to me as I was talking about some things, so I decided to read it. Started on a Sunday afternoon and finished Sunday evening. I just listened to the whole thing, trying to figure out where I wanted to take my life next. This was during the 30-day experiment I was doing with 14 different challenges. And so I was journaling every single day, but I wasn't really feeling that big of a difference. And something at the very end of How Will You Measure Your Life really stuck out to me, and I decided to switch my journaling practice to this specific way of journaling. It's not bullet journaling, it's not fast. You can skip out of this video if you think that's what it's going to be. It's something actually a lot harder than that, but extremely rewarding at the same time. Before I dive into what that practice is and the promise of this video, I want to dive into two different schools of thought when it comes to the purpose of our life. And this really comes from Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, which I recently read as well. In his book, Viktor Frankl, who is a Holocaust survivor, talked about the fact that it's not each of us discovering a certain purpose for our life, but life asking us the question, what is the purpose? And then we go and decide that. The other school of thought is that we're each put on this earth with a specific mission, and we have to discover that mission and then fulfill that through our daily actions. I think these two ways of thinking about the purpose of our life are both equally important, because there are decisions that we definitely need to make for ourselves, and then there are decisions that we were put on this earth specifically for that reason, and it's not really within our control what it is that we're specifically supposed to do. As a person of faith, this is heavily influenced by God's purpose for me, but you might think about that a different way. I feel like this relates to the gas pedal analogy that Ryan Holiday puts in his book, Ego is the Enemy. He talks about how life is about putting your foot on the gas pedal at the right time with the right amount of force, going in the right direction, and then knowing when to take it off. So many different ways that we can go about things, and it's just all about balance. It's all about discovering how far to put your foot down on the gas pedal and making sure you're going in the right direction, all of those things. But at the end of his book, Clayton Christensen talks about how he discovered the purpose of his life, and this is why it's called How Will You Measure Your Life, because he helps you figure out what it is that you care about and realize that you're running a different race than everybody else in this life, that you're going to measure your life differently than your brother or your sister or your friend, and that measurement is based on you figuring it out, not anybody telling you what it is. So he recommends a 3-step process to figuring this out. The first one that he talks about is defining a likeness, something that you're striving towards. And the second thing, which I find really interesting, is committing to that likeness. The third one is finding a metric to figure out if you're getting closer to that likeness. So for me, defining a likeness of what I want to be someday, what I want to have done, it's a pretty easy process, but at the same time, long-term goals are pretty hard for me because I don't know what's going to be different in 5 years from now or what's going to be exactly the same. But generally, I think all of us have an idea of who we want to become, what things we would like to do later in our lives, even if it's just a basic grasp of that. The second thing that Clayton M. Christensen describes in the book that's really interesting is that we need to commit to that likeness. And I think this is so interesting because nobody ever talks about it. We can talk about defining our dreams, we can talk about doing everything that we're supposed to every day, but committing is a process of emotionally and spiritually attaching to that likeness and knowing that no matter what, we're going to achieve it. If the commitment is there, then we don't have to worry about all these fancy like habit hacks and all of these other things. If we want this more than anything else, we're going to make sure that it happens. And that's what he's talking about. So what Christensen describes in the book that he did to commit to his likeness is that when he was at graduate school in Oxford, He realized that a lot of his religious beliefs were being challenged, and the way that he wanted to live his life would be difficult at Oxford. So I don't want to get too religious on you. If you're not religious, this can still apply to you. So just think about how you might be able to take the same principle and put it into your life. So he decided, I really need to know if what I believe in is true, and I really need to understand the purpose of my life. So what he decided to do was block out an hour a day from 11 p.m. to 12 a.m. and think about the purpose of his life. He would read a chapter from the scriptures, and then he would think about it, he would pray about it, and then he would think about his likeness and ask God if that's what he wanted him to be. And Christensen said he did this every single day for a year, which absolutely blows my mind. Because in a world where, the thumbnails on YouTube and the people on social media are telling you about quick fixes, about, all you need to do to get out of debt is this one thing, nobody's going to tell you, sit down for an hour every single day and think about the purpose of your life. That's hard. It's not mainstream, but I think that's why I love it so much, is because he is so dedicated to figuring out why he's here, whether that's asking himself, what is the purpose of my life? What do I want my life to be? Or what do I think that God wants my life to be? I think meshing those two becomes really powerful. But doing that for 1 hour every day for a year, he said it would have been tragic if I spent that time studying economics. And I'm so glad that I spent it thinking about the purpose of my life, because it set me up for success for the rest of my life. Incredible. So again, about 5 or 6 days into this 30-day challenge, I decided I was going to take this same practice. This is what I did. I went to the store and I bought this notebook specifically for this purpose. It's nice. I kind of like the way it looks, and it helps me associate a specific action with what I'm doing when I write in it every single morning. Now my morning routine looks like this. I wake up, I meditate, and then I read a chapter from the Bible, a chapter from the Book of Mormon, and then I think about each of those and think about if I think they're true, if there's any questions I have, and try to commune with God in that way. Then when I'm done with that, I start thinking about my likeness, my purpose, why it is that I'm here on this earth, and I write down everything that I can think about that might help me with that. So every day I take up maybe a page or a half a page. That's just my place to kind of sift through thoughts. But then at the very front, I have this page that says my life's purpose, and I've only written 4 things there from, I think it's been like a month and a half of doing this now. So I kind of make sure that that page doesn't get cluttered with a lot of stuff, because it's hard for me to focus on too many things at one time. You should be able to articulate your plan and your purpose for your life very simply. So I'm not going to share everything that's on this first page, but I will share the one thing that I think has really solidified for me over the last month and a half, and I think will continue to become a theme in my life, and I think is a big part of my purpose, which is learn as much as humanly possible and then package that learning for others to learn from too. I think that's a big part of my purpose, and it's been cool to, it's like 40 hours of sitting down and thinking, and you might be like, that's all he's come up with? Like, I could have told him that. But it's powerful because I'm committing to it personally. Again, this isn't about defining the person. You're going to help define yourself during this process, define your likeness. It's about committing to the likeness, which is a totally different game. And spending a lot of time thinking about it as well as acting on it, but just that simple act of thinking and getting a witness from God that that's what you're supposed to do, that's what's helping me commit to my likeness. So you might be wondering if this is a bit excessive, and that's a good question. I'm still trying to figure out that myself, but if Clayton M. Christensen were here, I'm sure he would say, no, it's not, because this is the most important thing you can figure out. If you have an understanding of what your purpose on this earth is, then every single day is going to go better for you. You're going to be happier, and you're going to fulfill your purpose, which is what all of us want, right? But what I've identified so far as it relates to this commitment to my life's purpose is something I like to call priority 0. So imagine that you figure out what your life's purpose is. I say, okay, I am meant to learn as much as possible and share that learning with others. How do I make that happen? That's priority 0. So priority 0 is protecting your health, your wealth, everything that's important to making that goal a reality. Because priority number 1 is learn and share that learning. Priority 0 is be able to learn and be able to share that learning. So I don't really know what my life is going to bring. In a lot of ways, I'm a lot more successful than I thought I would be at this age. I don't have any debt. I work for myself. I make a good income, and I'm taking small daily actions to diversify and make sure that that income stream is stable and build other ones as well. And I got here way faster than I thought I would. Anyways, I feel like for a lot of you, that might be priority 0, is financially be okay or physically be healthy, something like that. But for me, at this point in my life, my priority 0, and again, if you're not religious, this could mean something else for you, is be able to feel the Spirit of God in my life. Just have a daily walk with Him. And I've identified 5 things that will help me do that. If I do these things every single day, my priority 0 will be reached, my priority 1 will definitely be reached, and everything else that needs to happen will be reached as well. So for me, these 5 things are meaningful prayer, meaningful scripture study, pondering/journaling, planning tomorrow today, and eating a low inflammation, very clean, healthy diet. Again, I want to stress for you, this could be totally different, completely different. And that's the whole idea about purposes, is that everybody has a unique one and they're going to have a unique way of reaching it. But I think what's true for everyone is they need to have a priority 0. And if you don't know what your priority 1 is yet, get clear on your priority 0. And the reason I say that is because I know that if I do these things every single day for the rest of my life, there's no way I'm not going to figure out how to have a successful, purposeful life that's full of meaning. There's just no way. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this practice. If any of you have done anything similar, let me know in the comments, and feel free to message me on Instagram as well. I love connecting with anybody who's found me through YouTube or my videos on there, and I will see you in the next video.